Hello there, Wildcat fans. Welcome into our weekly edition of the KSU CatZone Cat Chat, brought to you by the Topeka Capital-Journal. I'm Andy Burns. Joining me, as always, Ken Corbitt, our lead Kansas State beat writer. Today, we're going to look back at Kansas State's conference opener against West Virginia in Morgantown. We're going to preview their conference home opener against Texas Tech this weekend. And Kenny, we'll go ahead and start with that game at West Virginia. K-State loses a heartbreaker, 17-16. And I've got to give you credit. You called it last week when you said Matthew McCrane's field goal was probably going to decide it. He missed a 43-yard field goal with 2 minutes and 3 seconds left in that game. And Kenny, you called it. It was a close one all the way through.
Yeah, it was. Disappointing finish. I mean, they put together, moved the ball well at the end to get down there in position. And Matthew had a really good game. He'd made 3 field goals already. And he's been clutch throughout his career. He's struggling a little bit this year. He'd only missed 1 field goal his past 2 years. He's missed 3 already this year. But, credit to Matthew for facing the music after the game, coming in, talking with the media and facing up, taking the blame. Unnecessarily shouldered all the blame for the loss. But,
right.
It's a tough loss that I think in a few weeks K-State's really going to look back and be kicking themselves about.
Mm-hmm. And McCrane, to his credit, like you said, did go through and talk to the media after the game, took the blame for it. But I think there's plenty of blame to go around in this one. Offensively, K-State was ahead 13-0 at halftime. They only scored 3 points. In the second half, the defense was great through 3 quarters, then gives up 10 points in the fourth quarter. And I guess we can go ahead and start with the offense. Maybe settled for a few too many field goals there in the first half, but I think anytime you go into halftime up 13-0, you got to be pretty happy with yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to hold West Virginia's offense down the way they did, I mean, the defense played great. The offense, it was kind of hit and miss. I mean, They did need to convert some field goals. And one tweet I put out during the game, at the end of the first half, they settled for a field goal, but I didn't mind that one when you started to drive on the 3-yard line. To get any points out of that drive was big.
Right.
So, but they need to score, and that has been a focus this week. Charles Jones, talking to him Tuesday, he said the number 1 focus this week is clock management, but the number 2 focus is finishing, getting 6 in the end zone.
The clock management thing, that was kind of a big issue too. To me, I've been watching K-State football for years. That didn't seem out of the ordinary to me. Maybe a little bit in the sense of how many times they were calling timeouts early in the quarter, but it seems like this has always been a problem under Snyder, getting the right play in and getting it in on time. Is that fair to say?
It is in the past few years, and to me the most disturbing fact is a lot of those come on the first play of a drive or after a first down. I mean, you have to be ready to go, especially if you just made a first down, you got some momentum going, you can't be calling a timeout and stopping your own momentum.
Mm-hmm. And so that offense, we'll go ahead and go back to that. In the second half, K-State hits a field goal to start off the second half, then they punt. They have an interception, they punt again, and then they had the missed field goal to end the half. Only 5 possessions in the second half. I think that's just kind of going to be a thing for K-State with the way that their offense goes. They play ball control. They want to limit possessions in the game, so they're going to have fewer possessions. But that second half just brutal to watch for the offense for K-State.
It was. I mean, they just need to find some rhythm. I mean, Jesse Ertz is a young quarterback. He's still learning. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a good game, 10 of 30, but, I mean, he had some protection problems. He was scrambling a lot. The receivers dropped some balls. I mean, Byron Pringle dropped a touchdown pass he should have had. If they make that, it's a different game. So,
Absolutely.
As you said, there's plenty of blame to go around. But, against a team that, West Virginia has a decent defense. They're going to face worse defenses coming up. But,
sure.
Still, if you hold a team to 17 points, you think you should win.
And defensively, K-State excellent through the first 3 quarters. They allowed a field goal to start the second half. Fell apart in the fourth quarter, though. And I don't know that that's necessarily fair to say fell apart because they gave up 10 points in the fourth quarter. I think in the Big 12, that's going to be expected of any defense, especially a good one like K-State. I think when you hold up for 3 quarters like that, your offense needs to kind of pick you up a little bit, kind of like we talked about. But in your advance for Friday's Capital-Journal, you mentioned the backup quarterbacks. You mentioned Jesse Ertz. He goes 10 for 30. Not a great day in the stat sheet. But a lot of fans really clamoring for Alex Delton, maybe even Joe Huebner, getting somebody else in there. K-State's going to see more than likely a backup quarterback this weekend at Texas Tech. We'll get to that in a minute. But Jesse Ertz again finishes 10 of 30 for 166 yards, no touchdowns in the interception. Fans obviously aren't happy. Bill Snyder, though, seems to still have confidence in Jesse Ertz.
He does. And again, as we said, Jesse is still learning. But, a week earlier they only played a half against Missouri State, and Jesse had a great game.
Right.
He's 7 of 8 passing, ran the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
Against, again, that's a lower division team, and West Virginia has a better defense. But,
sure.
It wasn't all, as we said, it wasn't all Jesse. There were problems with receivers running some bad routes, dropping some balls. But, Jesse, though, wasn't sharp. He threw some bad passes, and And he needs to be a little more efficient. I mean, they can't have a 30% completion percentage in any game.
Sure. And you mentioned in that advance as well that Bill Snyder gives 40% of his reps in practice to the backup. Is that, I didn't know that before I read that story. Is that normal for him? Has that always been the case? Is it something to look into? What's the story there?
I think it's pretty normal, and you look at the past few years, they've used some different quarterbacks. I mean, a couple of years ago, they had Jake Waters and Daniel Sams going together. That's an experiment that really didn't work out. But, you have to keep that backup quarterback prepared because you never know. Because, the old saying, you're one snap away from playing, and, which they learned in the hard way last year. So, but
Right.
I think it's pretty normal for, as Bill said, every program is different and do things differently. But I think for him, it's what he's always done.
And I think Bill Snyder maybe does things a little bit differently than anybody, and I think K-State might be
That's
pretty
true.
okay with that. As far as backup quarterbacks go, I like the quote in there from Dana Holgerson about how the backup quarterback is, quote, the most popular guy in the stadium when something goes wrong. I think that really kind of hit on what a lot of fans think about the quarterback position and how much emphasis we place on it. And like you said, if Byron Pringle catches that touchdown pass, it's a completely different ball game. The K-State defense holds up in the fourth quarter, it's a different ball game. So while I think there is improvement to be made at the quarterback spot, I think there's improvement to be made everywhere on this K-State team. And speaking of backup quarterbacks again, K-State likely to face one this weekend. Texas Tech coming to Manhattan. Starter Patrick Mahomes throws 4 touchdown passes last Thursday against KU. Goes out with an injury, replaced with Nick Shimanek, who goes 15 for 21, 271 yards, and 4 touchdowns against the Jayhawks. Not a whole lot of drop-off there, Kenny.
No, there wasn't. And that's what you want from your backup quarterback. It's hard to do. I mean, he came in right away cold. Interesting guy. I mean, if you take a look at him, got kind of long hair and headband, a lot of tattoos.
Right.
Transfer from Iowa.
Okay.
But he's from Texas, so, he found a place that fits his style of game. And obviously, Texas Tech, they just seem to keep, no matter who's at quarterback, they run that system and they put up yards and points.
That was going to be my next point, is that a lot of people are going to look at that number and say system quarterback, especially at Texas Tech. They've always had that system pretty much ever since Mike Leach has been there, and now all the way through Cliff Kingsbury. To me, though, if the system works, it shouldn't matter. And that system gave K-State plenty of problems last week. They put up 59 points against K-State in Lubbock. The benefit there, I think, for K-State is, at least in my opinion, you wouldn't prepare any differently for Shimanek than you would for Mahomes. Is that fair to say?
Oh, exactly. Because the playbook is the same, the system is the same. It's not like you're going from a Jake Waters to a Daniel Sams or type thing, or a passing quarterback to a running quarterback. It's the same playbook, so it's just a different person back there. I don't know if Shimanek is the runner that Patrick Mahomes is. We haven't seen him run the ball.
Right.
Because Mahomes is a big, strong guy who could get out and break the pocket and do some things too. So
Sure.
that may be the only question about him.
Part of that, too, may be that they were ahead by so much against KU. Maybe he didn't really have to run the football very much. And not to pile on KU, but again, it is Kansas. They are at the bottom of the conference. So going to see a little bit of a different challenge this week from Kansas State. And Texas Tech's defense, though, as good as that offense is, their defense has some issues. They're allowing 37 points a game. They gave up 45 points to Louisiana Tech, 68 to Arizona State. Kenny, that defense, they got some holes.
Well, there's a lot of ones on there. Texas Tech is number 1 nationally in total offense. They're number 111 in total defense. So, they put their offense, they're going to outscore you. I mean, they've been through a lot of defensive coordinators. This is David Gibbs' second year as defensive coordinator. First one since 2009 to have the same defensive coordinator back-to-back years for them. So they've gone through a lot of people. Again, they're trying to improve it, but I think their philosophy is we're just going to outscore you.
Yeah. And they gave up 472 yards a game on average, over 300 yards a game on average through the year, 166 on the ground, Kenny. If you're Bill Snyder, you're this Kansas State offense, you're kind of struggling, you get a bit of an easier matchup this week with the Texas Tech defense. What's the best way, do you think, for K-State's offense to attack this defense?
Just come out and run the ball. I mean, that's what they want to do every week. They want to establish the run game and open up the passing game, but control the clock. But they need to get some consistency in that running game. I mean, the offensive line needs to block better. They need to settle on a running back. I mean, Justin Stillman started last week, didn't get much. Charles Jones came in, had a couple good carries. Dalvin Warmack did his usual thing, had a couple really good runs, but just didn't see the ball enough. So they just need to settle on someone and find a running game that works.
And I think we talk about the quarterback and how fans are dissatisfied there with Jesse Ertz and the production there last week. But you mentioned at that running back spot, there's 3 guys there getting snaps, and really it's hard to get into a rhythm there when you're constantly switching guys in and out. But should be an interesting game this week. K-State, I think the key there is, can K-State's defense hold off the Texas Tech offense, and can that offense do enough for K-State to keep K-State in the ball game? Kenny, can we get a prediction out of you for this week's game?
Well, I was kind of surprised at the line. K-State did open as a 9-point favorite. I thought that was kind of high. I think now it's down to about 7.5. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You gotta get a couple of stops, and you're not going to shut down Texas Tech. I mean, they did a good job against West Virginia's offense, which those two offenses are from the same roots, from the Mike Leach tree. But K-State has proven the ability to score a little bit, and so I think it's going to be in the mid-30s. I picked K-State to win 39-30.
Okay. That game will air at 6 o'clock from Manhattan on ESPNU, and you can hear it here in Topeka on 580 WWW. We'll go ahead and check Kenny's prediction. I don't know if it'll be as accurate as you were last week, Kenny, but we'll go ahead and check it next week. Thanks for listening, guys.